designated driver as the person who doesn't drink at all and is going to drop everybody at home. So please be safe. Alcohol can be enjoyed responsibly, but please don't abuse it.
Keep Africa in your hands. Connect to our website for all your news, sports, and cultural updates. channelafrica.co.za. Africa Update on Channel Africa with Luke Boo.
Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi has now accused Rwanda of violating the peace deal. Are you surprised at this latest accusation? This is literally days after a signing, a ceremony, so to speak.
This is not surprising. I mean, if you ask Paul Kagame, he would also say almost the same thing. One should ask a question. The broker of the peace deal, President Trump, what is it that he wants? Why now? And why is this peace deal being signed in the Americas and not in the Great Lakes? Paul Kagame has never respected Tshisekedi, as often say. Tshisekedi must deal with the problems in his country. He has nothing to do with it. So this peace deal, obviously, when it was signed, one just looked at it and said, this will not last.
Kenny Matiba, former journalist.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Let's go to this story now. Delays at the Libombo border gate between South Africa and Mozambique have left truck drivers frustrated, with many queuing for more than 28 kilometers on the M4 in Hectorspruit. Now, some have been stuck in traffic for days with no proper facilities such as toilets. Meanwhile, authorities have urged motorists to exercise extra caution on the road due to the persistent rain in most parts of the province. And at least one person sadly has died following a collision between a sedan, a minibus taxi and a truck on the N4 near Malelane this morning. SABC News reporter Tumelo Machocho has more.
Trucks stuck on the N4 toll road. A queue nearly 30 kilometers long, leaving truck drivers fuming with no facilities and their safety compromised.
Maybe we are about 5 to 10 kilometers from the roadblock. Ever since we stood here, there was no even a patrol car of the police, so we are not safe. Things at night, things happen here. First thing, they steal diesel, they steal the tires. If they don't get those things, if maybe they want more, they come to your truck, they attack you.
Another thing that you have a problem here, don't have a toilet, no shop, nothing. As I'm at the forest.
I am about 30 kilometers away from the border gate, and I don't think I will cross the border today or tomorrow. I think I'll spend Christmas here. Elsewhere on the N4, slow-moving traffic. Earlier, a sedan, a taxi and a truck collided, killing one person and seriously injuring another near Malelane. Multiple vehicles have mechanical problems, are also stuck on the road. And the persistent rain is not helping matters.
I'm going to Mozambique for holidays. I saw many accidents and a car broken, a lot of things, but the way it was good for us.
We're coming from Edenville in Joburg, so it's been raining all the way. It's very bad. It's got a lot of accidents as well. So what I suggest, I think we need more police to control by the road, because a lot of people is being, stacking on the road. There's no help. A lot of people with the children, there's no help. It's what
authorities are concerned about the fatalities, crashes and drunk driving.
We have arrested about 88 people for allegedly drinking and driving, and then between 1 and 20 December. However, 60 of these people were arrested this weekend alone. 50 of them were arrested in the Nkangala region, while we had 10 in Kherisibande district. And the other issue is that between Friday and Saturday night, we have recorded 7 fatalities in various crashes that happened in the province. And then this brings the total number of people that we have lost on the road between 1 and 20 December to about 83.
On Monday, Border Management Authority Commissioner Dr. Michael Masiapato will visit Lebombo port of entry to monitor the movement of cargo and people. Tumela Machoho, SABC News, N4 near Hector Sprint.
Yeah, traffic flows, as you can imagine, taking place all over the place. But let's catch up with this story before we get to the top of the hour. Some farmers in Ventersdorp in South Africa's northwest province say that recent torrential rains have negatively affected their crops, and they're not hopeful of a positive production come January-February harvest. Zebulon Maine compiled this report.
The 57-year-old Jeff Nong from Ventersdorp has a grape farm of about 10 hectares. He is now counting their losses following the recent rains, which were at times accompanied by hailstorms.
The damage was caused by heavy rains, including the hail. The rain didn't cause that much damage, but the hail, the damage is caused more by the hail. As you can see here, there's nothing that you can harvest during the harvest time, and they don't even promise that they will be ripe, during January for February harvest. So that's the problem that I have now. But if there was no hail, this shouldn't have happened.
Nong may have to reduce his staff complement.
My estimation is that I might get 30% of this whole 10 hectares because the damage, the whole 10 hectares is damaged. And even the people who are coming, for harvest during February, they're going to lose jobs. There isn't going to be much for them to do. The number that I normally employ is 20 people, including my permanent people. Hoping for that the coming season, maybe there won't be hail, then we'll just see. But for now, it's a loss.
Above normal rains have been predicted for some provinces such as Northwest, as senior forecaster at South African Weather Services, J.K. Mudika elaborates.
This cooling changes the global wind and weather patterns. It typically brings above normal summer rainfall to the northeastern parts of South Africa, such as Gauteng, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and KwaZulu-Natal, also parts of the Northwest Province as well as the Free State.
Farmers are calling on government to financially assist farmers who lost their produce during this period to avoid job cuts. I'm Zebulon Maine in Ventersdorp, Northwest.
You're listening to Channel Africa Radio. My name is Peter Ndoro. You're listening to Rise and Shine. The news is next with Jolane Tulongwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. The remaining 130 Nigerian school children abducted in November from a Catholic school in Niger State have been released. President Bola Tinubu spokesperson Bayo Ananuga made the announcement in a post on X. They're expected to arrive in Mina today and be reunited with their parents. The students are among more than 300 pupils and 12 staff seized by gunmen from St. Mary's Catholic boarding school in Papiri village last month. 50 of the children managed to escape at the time. Onanuga says the total of free student is now at 230. The abduction has caused outrage over worsening insecurity in northern Nigeria, where armed gangs frequently target schools for ransom. There's been significant damage to public and private infrastructure on the KwaZulu-Natal south coast in South Africa following devastating flash floods in the region. That's according to the Provincial Department of Cooperative Governance, who have deployed disaster management teams to the area. The department says the coastal belt stretching from Margate through Oslo Beach to Port Shepstone was hit by intense rainfall yesterday afternoon. The downpours have reportedly resulted in extensive damage to road infrastructure, commercial property and shopping hubs, including the Shelley Centre. Department spokesperson Senzelwe Mzila says there's been no fatalities or injuries reported and that emergency teams are clearing debris and assessing the damage.
Multiple roads are currently obstructed by fallen trees and several sinkholes have formed specifically in the Manaba area. Provincial and municipal disaster management units alongside fire and rescue services are currently on the ground conducting emergency interventions, clearing debris from main arterial routes and performing formal damage assessments. Members of the public are urged to avoid crossing flooded bridges or low-lying roads. They are also urged to stay clear of areas where sinkholes have been identified.
Still in South Africa, residents of Biggersdal in the west of Johannesburg say they are living in constant fear after 9 people were killed in a shooting at a tavern yesterday morning. 10 others were wounded in the incident, which happened in the Tambo section. Meanwhile, police say the suspects used a Toyota Quantum and a Toyota Etios to get to the scene of the mass shooting. Police have also launched a manhunt for those suspects. This resident says Biggersdal is a crime hotspot in which gunshots are heard every night.
It's a norm here for such incidents to happen, because a few months back there was another mass shooting. Here when it's dusk, brother, everyone is in fear. No one is sending a child to the store. The people that are going to the tavern, they are going knowing very well that they are susceptible to dying. So it's a problem.
An overloaded bus travelling to Zimbabwe from South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province was intercepted by police in the Limpopo province. The 63-seater bus was carrying 82 passengers. This comes in the aftermath of the recent impounding of a Malawi-bound bus at the Manzole Way Bridge. It was carrying double the number of passengers permitted. Provincial Transport Department spokesperson Madume Dawiatswala says breaching safety regulations will not be tolerated. And finally, Israel's Security Cabinet has approved the recognition of 19 new settlements in the occupied West Bank. The latest move comes after the United Nations said the expansion of Israeli settlements had reached its highest level in 8 years. The BBC's Shaima Khalil has the story.
This decision brings the total number of settlements approved over the past 3 years to 69, according to the Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, who proposed the move alongside the Defense Minister Israel Katz. The approvals come just days after the United Nations said settlement expansion had reached its highest level since 2017. Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank are considered illegal under international law. Mr. Smotrich, a settler himself and a vocal advocate of expansion, said the decision was about blocking the establishment of a Palestinian state.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Mwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, Bafana coach dismissed the notion that his team is one of the favourites in AFCON. And Australia sealed the Ashes series with a win over England in Adelaide. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Wherever the hour finds you, across the world, here's your morning African lens on the world's leading story. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Coming up this hour on Rise and Shine, the second hour of the program, we'll be taking a look at a couple of things. One of them, ECOWAS, the economic grouping in West Africa, is set to abolish air transport taxes from January 2026. Great news. I wish we'd see that on SADC and other areas as well on the continent. And then also we'll be unpacking that mass shooting that took place in Biggersdal. That's about 46 kilometers west of Johannesburg in South Africa. Tell you more about that gruesome story, particularly sad, and leaving a lot of South Africans still in shock. But we'll unpack all of that in the next 30 minutes.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et vos 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is set to abolish air transport taxes from January the 1st, 2026. This is a move that's aimed at lowering the cost of travel across the region. The bloc has also announced a 25% reduction in passenger and security-related aviation charges from next year. Channel Africa's economics reporter now examines the significance of this decision and what it could mean for airfares and regional connectivity.
The measures follows a decision taken by ECOWAS heads of state and government at their summit in Abuja in December 2024. Economist and managing director and CEO of Timeline Consult Limited in Nigeria, Shobi Idris, shares his perspective on the economic significance of ECOWAS' decision to abolish air transport taxes.
One needs to interrogate what are the concomitant features of a typical airline ticket. Number one, airline companies do try to price their ticket on a basis or on the basis of a number of factors. Chief among them is the cost of fuel. When and where ATK, otherwise known as aviation fuel, the international price increase, obviously airline operators will have to increase, their tickets because cost of operation would have increased. Secondly, the cost of buying an aircraft. Yes, an aircraft can be in service for 15, 20 years or even longer.
He says the move has the potential to encourage economic activities.
When and where the prices are relatively low, it encourage economic activities. It encourage boom. When and where prices are high, people can't afford it. Movement is restricted and activities could slow down. So obviously, if there is a reduction in taxation or an abolishment of a certain tax leading to a reduction in price of airline tickets, obviously that will signal, the fact that passengers could be enticed, to engage in trips.
But what impact could this reform have on regional trade, tourism, and business mobility in Western Africa, particularly for Nigeria as one of the region's largest aviation and economic hubs? Adeniyi Efatayo, CEO of Megastar Media Communications, shares his perspective.
The ECOWAS decision to abolish air transport taxes so that to reduce the cost of a flight within that region is a good one, is a commendable one, and it will also, just like it will ease movement and it will increase more movement within the ECOWAS sub-region. And as well, like you said, that insinuating whether the airline will pass the cost saving to the passenger. So there has to be monitoring from ECOWAS different country ministry of aviation. Then they need to monitor. They know how much the a 1 hour journey flight ticket cost. How much is it now after the implementation? It's not just about making the policy. They should make sure that all the policies are implemented into they are followed up.
He also agrees that the move is expected to boost regional trade across the bloc.
We give more trade, more regional trade, and also in terms of tourism, people want to visit ECOWAS states. They want to see what they have for holiday, for vacation, for visit, and of course, business mobility. We can do more businesses because sometimes when you look at the cost that made up, transportation is very key. And when you are talking about air transportation, sometimes it's most expensive.
For Channel Africa News, I'm Innocent Simos in Johannesburg.
Now, South African authorities are conducting a nationwide manhunt after armed assailants killed at least 9 people and injured 10 others at a late-night shooting at a tavern in a place called Beckersdal, and that's a township about 46 kilometers west of Johannesburg, South Africa's largest city. Now, police say that about a dozen gunmen travelling in 2 vehicles opened fire with multiple pistols and an assault rifle on patrons inside and outside the establishment in the early hours of Sunday before fleeing the scene. This is the second mass shooting at drinking establishments in South Africa in recent weeks. part of a broader surge in firearm violence that's alarmed communities and put pressure on police resources to help get on top of. Well, to help us understand what's driving this wave of violence and the challenges facing the law enforcement, we're now joined by Mike Bolhuis, who's a specialist investigator. A very good morning to you. Thanks so much indeed for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Peter.
So we've seen a number of deadly shootings at taverns recently. From where you sit, what do you think's going on?
Well, it's more the year of the gun. So any disputes, it seems like the criminals will not just intimidate or extort or physically sort things out, they'll violently sort it out. I won't say this would be a trend or will become worse, but it can if it's not dealt with severely. So yes, there's a number of things that nowadays the criminals prefer to sort out with guns, and that could be territorial disputes, money. Something could have happened at the tavern. This could be a vigilante group. We don't know if they're linked with the others. So specialist investigators, forensic investigators, has to do a deep dig and deep search here, and this is serious investigations that is required from the authorities. We as specialist investigators would look at, if there's some people that were specifically targeted. Was it just a robbery? Is the Zamas involved? Did they want to close the place or take over the place? So there are many things. The motive is most important. And the biggest challenge is obviously is there's no informants. Who's going to come forward? So you can just go into the community and ask, and they know what's going about, but they know they could be killed because this is a message as well.
I mean, these attacks are quite brazen. Most times broad daylight, they don't care.
Yeah.
And they know that people know who they are, but won't speak.
Yep. That's it. Yeah, that's it. And and do we blame them? I must always answer the reasons why we don't have informants and why it's not working. Because in the end of the day, you have to visualize this. Suddenly 10, 15 men with AK-47 and all other forms of guns come in, and there's just, as you say, just start shooting. Even though any of the previous things that I've said could be the reason, there's very few, if any, in a community like that has the ability, and you cannot just like one man pop in like MacGyver or Rambo. It's just not going to work, because we've seen in these shootings, and there's other shootings similar, not necessarily taverns, where just a security guard was a block away, sitting in his car, not even getting involved, and by passing him, they just shot him and killed him. So this is, and remember, these community members also listen to the radio and they read the news, and they obviously have their own form of intelligence in the community. They know what's going on, and they know the dangers, and they know these people. And as I've said, it's a message, and that's the real problem. Obviously, they don't trust the police, and they do not trust anybody. They won't just come forward. And they've seen that even people that do, if we look at the hearings and the commission presently and previously, they've seen that people could be killed. Look at DJ Waras, just like that. And look at Van der Merwe. If somebody is a problem, you are shot for 3 reasons. Usually an extreme financial situation where you involve yourself, where you're a problem, or you're an information problem. If you can go out with information, they don't want to go out, they'll kill you. And then obviously there's the emotional killings.
The more I see what's going on, the more I'm concerned that we end up like a Haiti, where literally gangs take over cities and eventually countries. Are we moving in that direction? Because it seems as if law enforcement either can't or just won't manage this.
Look, this is like a chess table now. And let's say the government is the one side. They've got very little left. And the other side of the chess table is winning. The organized crime criminals in our country and the racketeers have taken over. I can prove it to you. You can ask people, anybody on the street, if they're concerned. You're not supposed to be concerned. You're supposed to say, I feel protected and served. I love this country. I can go anywhere. I don't need burglar bars. I can work. I can put bread on my table. I've got a roof over my head. And I'm not concerned about my kids. And, I don't have to worry about anything. All is just peaceful. I'm absolutely cool, calm, and collected. You won't get that. That means the country's been hijacked. And this country has been hijacked by organized crime and racketeering. That's it.
Is it all local, or do you think that there's international influence in terms of organized crimes here?
Yeah, look, organized crime will involve any similar or equal criminals and take them in if it's about making more money, whether they're from the neighboring countries or even overseas. But it's very little. But if they are, and if they are in our country, they will get involved. We've seen organized crime by extreme criminals in the years from Celebi rising, like Radovan Krejcir and others. I mean, even Lolly Jackson with the trading in, let's call it, people bringing people in from overseas and then having them working in sexual establishments, and then taking their documents and papers, and they were kept and still kept, and this even happens still today and has grown, that they must do sex work, otherwise they cannot get their documentation back. It's all, what I'm mentioning here is it's all grown to a level now where it's become basically the narrative that a lot of people are involved, if not most, on the criminal side, in the form of organized crime and racketeering. The biggest one we see is between government and extreme officials, high officials, very high-level generals, what we're seeing now in the commission. That is extreme organized crime. And we get it on a mid-level as well, amongst businessmen and local police stations. And you get it amongst the public as well. And they, just as a click together in construction, any and all, they pay their way. And that's a form of organized crime, because it's criminals. They become criminals, then working together, not practicing lawless. They become lawless, not practicing the law as they should.
Mike, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there, but thanks so much indeed for your insights on this worrying and growing problem. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys. We pray for everybody, and may you have a blessed December and festive season and a wonderful 2026. We hope you're safe. We pray for your safety and security. Regards, God bless.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Mark Bolhuis, who's a specialist investigator, talking to us about a country that appears to have been hijacked by organized crime.
Channel Africa sends you joy and good energy this festive season. Share your memories on our socials. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Channel Africa 1. Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126. And we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am, you know.
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views. Share your opinion. Engage with the community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Africa, voici Abedi.
Oui, c'est moi.
Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Bringing you the energy, news, and good vibes to kickstart your day. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Right, it's 7:23 Central African time. Let's take a look at this story when it comes to elections. And in fact, we've got two coming up on the 28th of December. Central African Republic and Guinea are going to the polls. South Africa's push towards e-voting and voting has sparked a national debate on how to modernize democracy without undermining rural communities. During recent consultations by the Independent Electoral Commission in the Northwest Province, traditional leaders raised concern about infrastructure gaps, limited digital literacy, and public trust in electronic systems. Well, to talk to us a little bit more about these challenges, the President of the Sovereign Congress of African Leaders, Ambassador Professor Thabo Mpiane, joins us on the line. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, Prof. Welcome to the program. Hello, Professor, are you there? All right, we seem to be having issues with the network, unfortunately. We're going to try and get hold of Professor Mpiane to talk a little bit more about electronic voting. And, I mean, it would make life so much simpler, but as with most things, trust becomes the big issue. And I think that is one of the big hurdles that a lot of voting systems across the continent are going to have to try and jump over. And I don't know what the answer is, because the manual systems are so much easier to fix and create fictitious roles, you name it. And yet, okay, let's see if the professor's there. Hello, Prof. Mpiane, can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you loud and clear, sir. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So,
Great.
Yeah. So what's your view regarding voting and e-voting, especially considering the current infrastructure in rural communities?
I think that, thank you very much, Peter. The e-voting system will have a very, very serious challenge when coming to that, especially in our rural areas, because at the moment, when coming to the issue of the infrastructure and the modern day whatever that technology, it becomes a problem. So we really need to have an intervention of the government to come on board and also come and teach our people all those things as to how to go about that the technology. But I think because at the moment, as you look at what is happening now in our government, the voting system that we are using right now, there's a lot of corruption that is taking place. So I'm not sure as to this one is going to work or what.
How bad in the rural area? We constantly South Africa most connected continent, 190 mobile connection. I'm just wondering about the issue of connectivity in rural areas, because we hear about 193% mobile connections per population. We hear about 96% of households owning at least one cell phone, 92% of people living in households with a working mobile phone. Are we really that disconnected in the rural areas?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is what is happening now, what we are experiencing in the rural areas. there is lack of access of internet to internet in the rural areas in our villages. So that is something that, like I've said, that we first have to look into it and work on that. That is why, as the Sovereign Congress of African leaders, we have been engaging with a whole lot of stakeholders who are into this business of connecting our people, who are in the business of the internet as well. And we did a lot actually on the ground as I'm speaking right now. But I'm thinking that that is going to be too early for the government to...
Local government elections. All right,
yes.
so let's ask this then. Let's say we fix connectivity, we get digital rolled out, even if it's mobile facilities. Is there still work to be done to convince people to trust electronic voting systems?
There is still work to be done, Peter. There's a lot to be done, actually. There's a lot to be done.
Why do you think people won't trust them? And we do a lot of electronic transacting as we speak now, like e-commerce, sending money by electronic means.
Like I've said to you, that if our people need to be taught and to be trained about these issues. And the things that are happening right now in the government, you can never trust anything actually. So they need to be convinced to say that this thing is going to work. We need to check on that as to whether is it really going to work or anything, because at the moment there is nothing that you can trust with this government in South Africa. It's a very, very serious problem.
Okay. Prof, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us on this very important issue. But one does seem to think that capacity, particularly in the short term, is a real issue. Thanks so much for your time.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Okay, so that was the leader of the Sovereign Congress of African Leaders, Ambassador Professor Thabo Mpiane, joining us on the line about this debate on E and I voting. It's 7:30. It's time for your news headlines with Jwalane Tulongwepe.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines. The remaining 130 Nigerian school children abducted in November from a Catholic school in Niger State have been released. Some occupants of a hijacked building in the Johannesburg CBD in South Africa say staying is their only option. Most of them are destitute and jobless. This emerged during a multidisciplinary sting operation at the building yesterday. And finally, the State Parliament of New South Wales in Australia is debating reforms to gun ownership following the mass shooting at a Jewish ceremony at Bondi Beach last week that left 15 people dead. I will have details on these and other stories at 8 o'clock.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective.
It's time to find out what's happening in the world of sport. And if you're a football fan like me, well, AFCON has kicked off. And it looks like Morocco is flying high already. But you know what? Comoros is not a huge country. I think just being there and participating really, really exciting. So let's find out what's been happening in the world of sport as we say good morning once again to Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good morning, Peter. First, Bafana coach Hugo Broos has dismissed the notion that South Africa are amongst the favourites to win this year's Africa Cup of Nations tournament in Morocco. Broos says the hosts and the usual suspects from West Africa are contenders to win the title this year. Bafana's first goal is to start the tournament with a win when they take on Angola in Marrakesh tonight. This year's AFCON is an opportunity to prove that winning the bronze medal in Ivory Coast last year was no fluke. Broos is under no illusion, saying this year's tournament will be tougher than the previous edition in Ivory Coast.
Normally, all the big teams will be there after the group stages. So that means it will be very tough to win this AFCON. So I will not tell you that South Africa is favorite. I think if you can call, or if you can say a favorite, then it's Morocco. Because Morocco is a very good team and is playing at home. But all the rest, it will be a challenge. We will see already after the group stages which teams are still there. And then maybe we can change our opinion. Now for the moment, you will not hear me saying that South Africa is one of the favorites.
But Captain Ronwin Williams believes Bafana will be on the radar of the other teams. They have the experience with 10 players having featured in Ivory Coast, while their recent run of success would not have escaped the opposition.
The coaches kept, the core group together for the last 2 years, and there's been, some exciting talent that's come through as well, who's given us good balance of youth and experience. And, the last AFCON we saw, how important it is to keep clean sheets. I think we set the record. We had 5 clean sheets out of 7 games, and that's what you need, to go all the way. You shouldn't, concede goals, and obviously we know the quality that we've got up front. They will always score.
And Morocco has secured a 2-0 victory over Comoros in their opening 2025 Africa Cup of Nations Group A match at the Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium in Rabat on Sunday night. A tournament host got off to a winning start, and the victory placed them at the top of the standings. The Atlas Lions, who are under Walid Regragui, will be looking to move one step closer to securing their spot in the round of 16 with a victory over Mali at the Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium on the 26th of December. The Sila Kent, on the other hand, will be disappointed after starting their Group A campaign with a defeat, having conceded 2 second-half goals. And in cricket news, it's Australia winning and retaining the Ashes after winning the third cricket test against England in the Adelaide by 82 runs to take a 3-0 lead in the 5-match series. Australian captain Pat Cummins says it was hard work in the end.
Look, all the stuff from last week around the stuff that I wanted to see a bit more from the team, I can definitely say I've seen that this week. Some of the guys lower down the order, I thought, stuck in and showed that courage and fight and responsibility that I was asking for. Yes, we've been on the wrong side of the result, but I think we can take a lot from this game into the remaining 2 games, and I think we've learned a lot about ourselves as a team as well.
For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Call us on +27 11 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Ukatili wa kijinsia unaharibu maisha na kutenga jamii. Hutokea nyumbani, shuleni, kazini na mara nyingi kwa ukimya. Lakini hauwezi kuendelea. Ukiona, ongea. Ikiwa unaumia, funguka, kwa sababu kutofanya lolote sio chaguo. Sikiliza vituo vyote 19 vya redio kuanzia Jumatano ya tarehe 23 Julai kwenye mijadala, ushauri, tamthilia, maonyesho ya elimu na mahojiano na wataalamu, manusura, watunga sheria na nchi nzima iliyoathirika na ukatili wa kijinsia kwenye vituo vyako pendwa vya redio. Piga simu 0800 428 ili kuripoti unyanyasaji au kupata msaada. GBV, ikomeshwe na wewe. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwenu na shirika la SABC.
Be inspired. Stay informed. Channel Africa, the beauty of life. Now available anytime, anywhere with our new app. A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that Gaza's humanitarian crisis remains on a knife edge despite famine being narrowly averted. Speaking at the UN headquarters in New York on Friday, Guterres said that more than 3/4 of Gaza's population, around 1.6 million people, are facing extreme levels of acute food insecurity and critical risks of malnutrition. He described widespread civilian suffering, collapsing infrastructure, and severe restrictions on access to food, water, and healthcare, as well as farmland, calling the situation heartbreaking and dangerously fragile. Channel Africa reporter Michael Mbewe has more.
The UN Secretary General's remarks underscore the gravity and immediacy of a humanitarian and legal crisis that continues to unfold amid ongoing hostilities. While the worst-case scenario of famine has been temporarily averted in Gaza, Antonio Guterres sought to make clear that the underlying conditions driving mass suffering remain largely unchanged by highlighting acute food insecurity, collapsing infrastructure, and the dangers faced by civilians and aid workers. He aimed to dispel any perception that the crisis is stabilizing or nearing resolution. Speaking to the media on Friday in New York, Guterres said his heart cannot bear.
It breaks my heart to see the ongoing scale of human suffering in Gaza. Families are enduring the unendurable. Children are forced to sleep in flooded tents. Buildings already battered by bombardment are collapsing under the weight of rain and wind, claiming more civilian lives. Water and sanitation services, hospitals and bakeries are struggling to recover from destruction, supply shortages, and continued restrictions on what can enter. And in more than half of Gaza, where Israeli troops remain deployed, farmland and entire neighborhoods are out of reach.
Guterres also warned that ongoing fighting is worsening civilian casualties and putting humanitarian workers at risk. He said aid efforts are being overwhelmed by rising needs and stressed that only a durable ceasefire can prevent the situation from deteriorating further.
Strikes and hostilities continue, pushing the civilian toll of this war even higher and exposing our teams to grave danger. Since October, we have done everything possible to keep lifelines open, supporting bakeries, delivering millions of meals, reopening nutrition centers, rehabilitating hospitals, vaccinating children, clearing rubble, restoring water lines. But needs are growing faster than aid can get it. We need a truly durable ceasefire.
He urged for the lifting of restrictions on humanitarian aid and warned of a rapidly worsening situation in the West Bank, calling for full respect of international humanitarian and human rights law across the occupied Palestinian territory following reports of Israel's deliberate blockade.
And we need more crossings, the lifting of restrictions on critical items, the removal of red tape, safe routes inside Gaza, sustained funding, and unimpeded access, including for NGOs. And we cannot lose sight of the rapidly deteriorating situation in the West Bank. Palestinians there face escalating tensions and intensified movement restrictions. Tens of thousands have been displaced following operations by Israeli forces in the northern West Bank. International law, including international humanitarian law and international human rights law, must be upheld across the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem.
Additionally, he reminded all parties that provisional measures ordered by the International Court of Justice are legally binding, stressing Israel's obligation to facilitate humanitarian aid, cooperate with the UN, and protect its personnel under the international law.
The International Court of Justice indicated provisional measures. They are binding and must be implemented. The Court's advisory opinion of 22 October 2025 was clear. Israel is under the obligation to allow and facilitate humanitarian aid, to cooperate with the United Nations in carrying out our mandates, and to respect the privileges and immunities of the United Nations and its personnel, including in times of armed conflict.
He then pledged his full backing of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, working tirelessly on the ground for the Palestinian refugees.
I reiterate my support for UNRWA, which plays an indispensable role in serving the Palestinian people in Gaza and elsewhere in the region. This is a crisis born of human decisions. It can be resolved through human choices if there is the political will to act. The perverse and prolonged suffering must end. Palestinians need a horizon of hope. The ceasefire must be implemented in full. The endless cycle of violence must be broken. And the way must be cleared to an irreversible path to a two-state solution.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
Now, at a recently concluded 85th ordinary session of the African Commission of Human and People's Rights, a leading Pan-African human rights organization has issued a stark warning about the continued widespread violations of women's and girls' human rights across the continent. Equality Now, which works globally and across Africa to protect and promote the rights of women and girls, told the Commission that despite powerful regional legal frameworks, including the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and Maputo Protocols, many African governments are failing to turn these commitments into real protection and justice on the ground. Issues highlighted include continued sexual and gender-based violence, weak enforcement of laws, systemic barriers to justice, gaps in reproductive health rights, and rising anti-gender backlash that threatens hard-won legal protections. And to help us understand the scale of these challenges and what needs to be done, we now speak with Gikuku Karungu, who's a Program Officer at Equality Now. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much indeed for joining us. Thank you so much, Gishuku, for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So maybe let's just start with getting a sense of the role of Equality Now and why your organization has raised the alarm at the ACHPR session this past week.
Yes, so Equality Now is a global human rights organization. Our focus is on the rights of women and girls. And I work in the Equality Now Africa office. So our focus is on the rights of African women and girls. And what we raised the alarm or brought to the attention of the African Human Rights Commission during its October session was just our concerns about a couple of concerns human rights violations that we've been taking note of, but not just us as Equality Now, but our partners as well as the Solidarity for African Women's Rights Coalition. And some of these concerns that we highlighted included the retrogressive family values, which are being pushed by the anti-gender movement. We also brought to the attention of the Commission our concerns around maternal mortality, which is a result of restrictive laws on reproductive rights. Also, the high statistics of gender-based violence on the continent, and as well as female genital mutilation, which still persists even in 2025. And finally, we also brought to its attention, the concerns around sexual exploitation and trafficking, which targets vulnerable women and girls, and often very young women and girls on the continent.
Gishuku, I mean, these are pretty serious and urgent violations that we're seeing across the continent that you're describing. My question to you is, why do you think that they're so persistent despite strong legal instruments like the Maputo Protocol?
Yes, I think one of the major concerns and shortfalls that we are seeing within governments is the domestication and implementation of the Maputo Protocol and the African Charter. So it's one thing to ratify these documents, but it's another to actually see proper implementation of these documents. And when we're talking about implementation, we mean our governments actually putting in place national laws, policies, and mechanisms to ensure that the rights that are within the Maputo Protocol and other international and regional human rights instruments are being implemented on the ground. For example, when we're talking about reproductive rights, and I mentioned maternal mortality, a lot of governments have laws that restrict access to, for example, safe and legal or medical abortion. And that is what's raising the numbers of maternal mortality. So can our government actually harmonize the national laws with the provisions of the Maputo Protocol, specifically in this case, under Article 14? We have governments that still do not have restrictions on the practice of female genital mutilation, like Sierra Leone. So we were calling on the governments to actually put in place laws to restrict harmful practices on women and girls, or even where we do have countries that have those laws and policies in place, we are seeing some countries rolling back on those progressive laws and policies. So, countries that have, for example, FGM, laws restricting FGM, actually restricting or going back to curbing those laws and those and bringing back those practices. And then we also feel that governments need to have more comprehensive and multi-sectoral responses to human rights violations, for example, like sexual exploitation and trafficking. It's not just working with one government agency. We need to see collaboration and joint action by several different government agencies. So that's where we're sort of seeing governments falling short, and the Maputo Protocol and progressive human rights instruments not really translating to the lived realities of women and girls in African countries.
Are there any success stories, though, Gichuku, of where progress is being made?
I mean, we take note and we celebrate countries that, for example, have recently ratified the Maputo Protocol. I know that that's usually the first step for us. And so, we praise countries like South Sudan, Botswana, and the Central African Republic, for recently ratifying the Maputo Protocol. It's always the first step. But, countries like South Africa have very progressive human rights laws and a human rights track record that is often praised nationally, internationally. So, South Africa has the Domestic Violence Act, you have an Employment Equity Act. Kenya as well has a very comprehensive human rights laws, Sexual Offences Act. We have an act, what we call the FGM Act. Lesotho also is one of the few countries on the continent that has expressly recognized and also set penalties for marital rape. But with all these successes in the laws, the biggest challenge still remains, whether it's in Kenya, South Africa, or Lesotho, in the implementation of the laws. And so that's something that we are still keeping our eyes out for and pushing governments to do better. So we're grateful for having these legislations and policies in place. We just feel that we need to push for better implementation, not only in, large cities but also in the rural areas. We need women and girls to be able to access their rights throughout the countries.
Gishuku, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, but thanks so much indeed for joining us and talking to us about these very, very important issues. Thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Gishuku Karungu, Program Officer at Equality Now, speaking to us about a big conference that took place this past week, looking to deal with the pushback on women's rights in particular, protocols not being respected, and the work that still needs to be done, particularly across the continent. After the 8 o'clock news, a change in programming because Rise and Shine is only going to be running 2 hours now, and On the Move starts at 8 o'clock today. 4 hours. Have you done your exercises?
I have done all my exercises. I am ready for that extra hour.
All right, so that's Palesa telling us what's coming up on the Move today. What can we look forward to?
Okay, very interesting that we're leaving from that conversation, because we're going to start with our gender-based violence focus, which we do every Monday on the show. And today we're looking at a really good event happening in the northwest province of South Africa, speaking about the challenges of gender-based violence in rural areas, but also awareness campaigns in those parts. What makes those particular areas of South Africa different from the cities, and how do we deal with gender-based violence in those particular spaces? And then we move on to the second hour of today's show, where we're going to be speaking about something quite interesting, right? It's relationships, and in relationships so many different things happen there, but today in particular we're going to be focusing on whether or not the relationships that we have today do really support women and how women see themselves in this day and age. But also we're going to be looking at the contrast between rural life and city life. What do you think? Okay, here it is. Why do you think that people who enjoy really amazing lives in the city still go home to the rural areas?
Yeah, so my experience is that we visit people, not places.
Right.
And so it's more about who you're going to see there and maybe memories that you created over time there than it is about the actual place itself.
So we'll be looking at that. What does the village give to us that the city can't? And what does the city offer in return? And so we're going to be looking at our, that movement between the city and the rurals, and many Africans still do it to this day. Some who even live abroad still come back home to the villages. What are we offering? What does the village offer us? What is that relationship like?
That's fascinating. What's your personal experience?
I don't have that personal experience. I don't have any rural areas, rural settings. Both my parents are from the city. They're both from Soweto. And so when I say I'm going home, it was always in Soweto somewhere. So I don't have rural or village dwellings in my family.
I'm going to Zimbabwe next week.
Yeah.
And I will be going to a rural place. And it is a traditional thing. And what happens is the extended family. So my father's cousins, fathers, brothers and sisters, my first cousins, second cousins, we all converge on this homestead, which we call kumusha, which is the Shona word for home.
Yes, I know that actually there's a song, there was a song like that.
Yes.
By the Muffins.
Yeah, everybody does it. It's such a big, huge thing. So that's what we're going to be doing. It's almost like a pilgrimage, actually.
I love that.
Yeah, I look forward to that. And the first thing was again?
GBV.
GBV, yeah.
In the rural areas in particular.
I think the rural areas are plagued still by culture because the cultural settings there are almost untouched in many areas. And
because they live by very different rules, right?
Yeah.
We here abide only by the law in the cities, most of it. But there's also mini laws, right? Laws of the area. They still have chief and chieftaincies that sort out issues in a very different way. And so they still have a very different way of living, but also a very different way of handling law because they have other laws that govern them outside of the law of the country.
Yeah, and men and women are trained to be men and women with gender-specific roles that they have to play. Phew, fascinating. All right, so that's On the Move with Palesa and Brother Benjamin coming up after the 8 o'clock news, which means I've got an early one today.
Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge. Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126. And we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am,
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views. Share your opinion. Engage with the community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Je, una jambo lolote akilini mwako? Je, una shauku kuhusu masuala muhimu? Na je, una maoni ambayo unataka yasikike? Kweli, hili jukwaa ni la kwako. Piga simu au tuandikie kwenda WhatsApp namba alama ya kujumulisha 2760552594 na tutakupigia simu.
Mtangazaji wa habari zetu za Afrika Kusini mjini Johannesburg.
Hivyo unaweza kuwa mshirika kwenye matangazo yetu. Sio mazungumzo tu, ni fursa yako ya kuchangia maoni yako na kushirikiana na jumuiya ya wasikilizaji wanaotamani mtazamo wako. Tufuate kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tembelea tovuti yetu www.channelafrica.co.za na uwe tayari kushiriki na kuchangia maoni yako kwenye Channel Africa. Channel Africa, mtazamo wa Kiafrika.
Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
So, there's no longer famine in Gaza, a global hunger monitor said on Friday, after access for humanitarian and commercial food deliveries improved following the fragile October 10 ceasefire in the war between Israel and Palestine. Hamas militants, but the situation remains critical, with little aid getting through to the whole population. Gaza is at risk of famine if war is resumed. Lucy Fielder has more.
Doctors in Nasser Hospital, southern Gaza, fear for Arjwana Dehini, aged 4. She's critically ill with severe acute malnutrition, the most dangerous stage of hunger. The latest assessment by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, comes 4 months after it said nearly a quarter of Palestinians in Gaza were experiencing famine, which Israel denied. That's more than 500,000 people. Arjwan's mother Haneen says the girl still weighs no more than 11 pounds, and her growth has stagnated. Her husband had his arm amputated, so he can't work and they have no income.
Arjwan started getting tired from the beginning of the war. Arjwan was fine. Her weight was excellent. She used to walk. She used to move. She used to play with her brothers. All of this stopped.
The IPC report described a severe and ongoing humanitarian crisis that called for, quote, a sustained, expanded and consistent humanitarian and commercial access. It warned that the entire Gaza Strip risked falling into famine in a worst-case scenario of renewed hostilities and a halt in aid. COGAT, the Israeli military agency that coordinates aid, rejected the IPC's latest report, calling it a, quote, false depiction of the situation on the ground. Israel's foreign ministry said far more aid was going in than it reflected. 6-year-old Yasser Arafat is also critically ill. His older brother died of malnutrition and his father also suffers from it. His mother Iman says the family hasn't been able to buy eggs or other high-protein foods.
A really, really challenging story there told to us by Lucy Fielder about what's happening in Palestine. Well, that's where we say goodbye from the Rise and Shine team. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow for another shortened version of the program. Coming up shortly, we hand over to the Rise and Shine team, the On the Move team.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go.
Good morning. It's 7:59 Central Africa time. It's time for On the Move a little earlier than usual. Myself, Palisa Tau, and Benjamin Moshatama will be with you for the next 4 hours. But first, our latest news update.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Palisa. Top stories: Asawa remaining 130 school children released in Nigeria, and Australia debate